Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest, Mr. Vince Koehn, the $1 million trader, and right now the business development director of ApexTraderFunding, the leading global futures prop trading firm in the world. Hello, Vince. Welcome to Hong Kong.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. To start with, could you tell us a little bit about prop trading? What is prop trading and how it gained so much popularity in the last few years?
So prop trading came about for the need was to lower the barriers of entry to the capital markets. And essentially what prop trading does is it democratizes the entry to the capital markets. It makes it easier for people that maybe didn't have access previously or could only do so through putting tens of thousands of dollars in their own brokerage account. You can now enter the futures markets for as little as $19, depending on the promotion that's running at Apex, $30 right now, and that gives you access to a $50,000 account to trade.
Right. It just gets so popular during the COVID times because my partner, Necro, we are having the community called TradeLad. It's a trading community for traders, and Necro is my partner. He used to be a fashion designer back in the days, but because of COVID, business not good, and then he started to try trading, and then of course try trading Apex, and right now he just 20x his money, like 2,000%. It's very inspiring.
I think that's a great thing with prop firms is an example you gave. He's a fashion designer, and the fantastic thing with prop firms is we take all walks of life, right? Anybody through prop firms can have access to the capital markets. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a stay-at-home mom, whether or not you're a soccer coach, if you're a nurse at the hospital. Prop firms have really lowered the barriers of entry to the capital markets. And that's great to hear that's happened here. And COVID did present a lot of opportunities in that regard. Because when we were all stuck at home or in quarantine, we were all looking for that fix to kind of, pad the bank account, pay the bills, and couldn't go out much. And so that did present some unique opportunities.
Yeah. And what do you think are the most common misconception people still have about prop firms and prop trading these days?
I think there's been some misconceptions especially when you look at like the CFD space and the Forex space. There certainly has been some transparency and maybe some reliability issues regarding those particular types of props. But the great thing is with companies like ApexTraderFunding is the barrier or the misconceptions are not there from the perspective that the market is centralized. Futures markets are regulated, they are centralized. Okay. And in the case of Apex, we do not provide the data, we do not provide the platform. Those are all third-party services. And so there's nothing that kind of has happened in the CFD and Forex space. There's none of that going on in the future space. And I think the positive thing is that it is a centralized market and U.S. regulated. Prop firms themselves aren't regulated, but our data feeds are regulated.
That's great. I recall I was one of the victims too. I traded a CFD prop firm called my first funds, and then I got funded, and then next few days, they ran out of business. And then a few of my friends too. And then there's actually my first experience with prop firm. But I can see that things are improving these days and improved a lot.
We've actually, we're tapping 600 million USD right now in payouts.
Wow.
600 million.
Wow,
so
that's a lot.
Currently our payouts are running between 17 and 20 million a month. That's at a pace that we're paying out more monthly than a lot of competing firms have paid out in their entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So our pace is very aggressive, and we're maintaining that pace, and we have for quite some time.
Yeah, I've read stories about Trader Koehn and JCap, like they're legendary.
Legendary, yes.
Yeah, they have like 2 million of payout each.
Yes.
Yeah, they are our role models, and then we're trying to to catch up.
Very disciplined traders.
Yeah, they were so good. And Apex has become a very recognizable name. And what makes Apex different from other prop firms?
I think we go back to the transparency, the credibility that we bring, the access to ownership. Our ownership is actually very active. Daryl Martin, our CEO, is quite active on social media. He likes to engage with traders. And I think that brings a lot of confidence. We're U.S. based. We're in the great state of Texas. And again, futures prop firms are not regulated themselves, but all of our data streams are. So I think the combination of all of that brings a lot of confidence to traders when they look at engaging with Apex.
Yeah, and what makes Apex different from other futures prop firms?
There's a couple things. One of the big things that I think a lot of traders pick up on initially is the fact that you can leverage a lot more accounts. That's pretty exciting. So in my own personal journey, it was something that I did quite aggressively because my thinking's always been rather than leverage with contracts like a lot of people do, leverage with accounts. So if you want to trade 5 contracts, for example, rather than doing 5 contracts in a single account of any size, whether it's a 25K or a 300K account, rather than leverage with 5 accounts or 5 contracts in one account, leverage 5 accounts and do 1 contract in each, because that keeps your trade, especially in the trailing drawdown, that keeps that a lot more in check, and the expectancy is more in line with the account size.
Yeah, that's what we like about Apex too. And another point is, for me, a major difference is in many other futures prop firms, they have a payout cap, and while Apex doesn't really have such.
We do not have a payout cap, correct?
Yeah. And it's like the logo of Apex, the possibilities are infinite.
The possibilities are, if disciplined traders who are willing to leverage the accounts can grow, the accounts quite large very quickly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But you have to, again, I caution, because when you do trade 20 accounts, you're typically doing so on a trade copier. And there are issues with trade copiers, right? It's when you're entering that many accounts in fast-moving markets, some orders don't get filled, then sometimes those orders might reverse. Those are all challenges that traders need to be aware of, and that's also part of becoming a great trader.
Right.
Is not only understanding the markets that you're trading, but understanding the limitations of the devices or the hardware that you're using. And I think that's a challenge that we're running into a lot. Is we see traders trading on Starbucks Wi-Fi. Nothing against Starbucks, but sometimes you need to understand that maybe the better choice would be to run a Cat5 cable into your computer and ensure that everything is up to speed, and do a speed test and know the hardware that you're using.
Yeah, that's correct. And another point is payout reliability is a very hot topic. So how does Apex build trust and transparency to their traders?
To put it simple, you follow the rules, you will get paid. There certainly has been traders out there that have been denied payouts. I was one of them. A lot of affiliates of ours have been denied payouts. Users have been denied payouts. But it's always been a rule break. So, for example, one of our rules that traders sometimes struggle with is our 30% drawdown on a single trade. What that rule simply says is that we don't want you losing more than 30% of your starting balance on a single trade. That doesn't mean you can take multiple trades. You could still blow your account if you're so inclined to do so. But we're just saying, give yourself a fighting chance and don't blow more than 30% of your starting balance on a single trade. And the example of that is if you were to go put $50,000 into your own brokerage account, I would not believe that you would want to risk more than 30% of that $50,000 on a single trade before you tap out and say, "Hey, I'm wrong." So those are things that traders struggle with, but at the same time, you follow the rules, you will get paid.
I think it helps build the discipline. Yeah, because if you lose 30% on one trade, and then you will easily go on till.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that prop firms are all looking, no matter what you're on social media, prop firms are all looking for traders to move to live. That is the end goal. Prop firms are not an environment where traders are going to exist into infinity. That's not the space for them. Prop firms are a step to either move to live or to trade your own brokerage account. And so the goal is to ensure that the rules are set up so that you can be consistent in a live environment. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, PROPFIRM is a good tool in terms of leverage and in terms of training your discipline.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share some interesting facts, like which country has the most payout besides the U.S.?
Well, North America in general still has leads in payouts. However, we're seeing other countries, South America, Brazil, for example,
Wow.
is quite strong. We're seeing some parts of Asia that are kind of, starting to bubble to the surface. We recently had, I think, one of a trader in Hong Kong, I believe, was in our top list. We have traders in Taiwan that are doing exceptionally well, in Japan that are doing well. We had a single mother in Philippines who has now withdrawn 1.1 million. And let that sink in. A single mother in Philippines, 1.1 million is generational wealth.
Yeah, that's life-changing.
That's life-changing.
Yeah.
And so those are the stories we like to talk about. But there's multiple parts of the world. Asia's obviously, that's the reason why we're traveling across Asia now. There's quite a few countries here. We're starting to see some very disciplined traders start to really do really well on the payout side.
Very nice. I saw it. I think it is on the August payout leaderboard. There's a Hong Kong trader, and then he made $19,000.
That is correct, yes.
That's very inspiring because Hong Kong is relatively a small city, and then compared to other countries.
Yes.
But it's like, oh yeah, we made it too, because Hong Kong can make it to the leaderboard. It's like, yeah, we have this possibility, and then it's very encouraging for us to fight for it and then keep strive for
But
it.
at the same time, it's not surprising to the standpoint that Hong Kong is a financial hub. There's a lot of knowledge here. There's a lot of, financial markets here. And so I was somewhat expecting that we would start to see, Singapore, Hong Kong, these areas start to kind of resonate, and that is happening.
Yeah. So I've watched some of your videos before, and then in your 1 million payout video, you've talked about marking the charts the night before the market starts.
Yes.
And using the value area. And during the market section, you use initial balance. Could you share more about how pre-market preparation is so critical to trading, and whether you're still using those strategies these days or make some modifications with it?
Yeah, I still use the same strategies I've always used. And I don't trade as often as I used to, simply because I'm quite busy with the role I have now. However, pre-market is something, I always tell people my trading day begin at 6 o'clock Eastern the night before. Because at 6 o'clock Eastern the night before when the futures markets open, I would always like to look at the charts, understand what the day's action was. You have the value area already plotted. I don't have to do so much markup anymore because most of the markups that I was doing are now automated through indicators. So my value area is automatically plotted. Once the trading session starts at 9:30 New York Eastern, at 10:30, the initial balance is set. That's the first hour of trading. So then I have my initial balance play that I can kind of look at. That's a strategy that I always like to look at. And I tend to always look at the simplest of strategies. I don't like to overcomplicate markets. I'm a big market internals guy, whether or not that's the advanced decline, the tick index, the mag 7, the Dixies is super important to me. So around 10 o'clock every day, I like to look at the market internals and understand the strength of the market. And that develops my bias on the day, kind of whether or not I think I'm going to try to go long or short. And then I start looking at the value area play and also that initial balance play. That's really never changed. But it's really important the night before to kind of take a 30,000-foot view. I see so many traders today trading. I hear people trading on, 30-second charts, 1-minute charts, and it's nothing against that. It's just not been my style. I like to look at daily charts, weekly charts, 4-hour charts. Then I take all those levels and pull them down to a 5-minute time frame, and that gives me a lot of confluence on those lower time frames to understand what's happening.
Yeah, I agree on that too, because if you look at the daily charts, that's where actual institutions, where big money, where they left their footprint over there.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's how they make trades. They don't trade on 1 minute, and they do trades on daily, maybe weekly charts. So that's how you frame your buyers. And then if you have a lower time frame confluence, then you can have a better risk reward, and then that's your trade. And for me, we are in Hong Kong, and then our time zone, I think we're pretty lucky to be in Hong Kong because we can trade the Asia section, we can trade the London section, and then we can do a preparation for the New York section doing the London section. And then it is still early for us, and then we got a lot of time to prepare for that.
And London sessions had some moves in the last year.
Yeah,
London seems to be a more tradable market than what what it was years ago when I was very actively trading. And I've always said you guys in Asia have the most opportune time to trade, because when the New York session opens, it's late in the day. You can kind of take that winning trade, hopefully, and then go to bed.
Yeah.
And so that, I think you can use it to your advantage and not overtrade or revenge trade, hopefully. So yeah, I love the time frame here in Asia from a New York session perspective.
Yeah, it's very nice. You also shared rules like to stop after 3 wins or 3 losses.
Yes.
Yeah. And personally, I'm a big fan of that. It completely changed my game and cultivate discipline. And could you also share more about the rationale behind this rule?
So I can't take credit for that. That actually came from Daryl Martin. So the 3-3 from me is a little bit of it's a twist on what Daryl Martin, our CEO at Apex, actually came up with. So I give him full credit for that. I just narrowed it down to 3-3 because it was something that worked better for me. And you could do a 3-5 strategy, whatever it is. But 3-3, it essentially focuses on your net wins and losses. So if you take one trade on the day and it's a win, you're up 1 net win. If you do another trade and it's a win, you're up 2 net wins. If your third trade's a loss, now you're up 1 net win. So you always look at it in terms of net wins and losers. If you hit 3 net wins, you're done for the day. If you hit 3 net losses, you're done for the day. Now, this only works if you have a strategy from a stop perspective. If you're one that goes out there and enters every trade and then you start to move your stop and pull your stop back, it's probably not going to work. But I typically use a 50-tick stop on NQ. Now, it depends a little bit on the volatility of the market and what time frame I'm looking at. But if you if you have a set stop, the 3-3 strategy will work. And it works on both sides, because what happens is if you have 3 wins, you can tend to build a little bit too much confidence.
Yeah.
And then that 4th trade, you can give it all back. On the other side, if you have 3 losses, you can revenge trade. And so if you're wrong 3 times, if you have 3 net losses, it's one of those days where you kind of accept the fact that maybe you're not in tune with the market. Maybe you stayed out too late the night before, whatever it was, but you're not in tune with the markets. And we all have those days. Every day is not going to be a winning day.
Right. For traders like us, say we just started to learn trading, or we have spent some time in trading already, like we are very passionate about trading. And then we all ran through those times that we don't know when to stop. Like we're just addicted to pushing that button. But having black and white rule can really frame the day. Like I know when to stop. I know I cannot proceed further if I violate the rule. I will have some punishment for myself if I violate the rule. Say I will not be able to trade for next day, or I will not be able to have lunch. I will just skip lunch if I violate the rule. So all these are trying to help myself to progress with discipline. And I think it's pretty crucial for people to have rules like that.
Yeah, and rules are important to have. They should be written down, and you should read them. Read them aloud to yourself every day. It's incredible to me the amount of traders out there that have not articulated a clear set of rules. I like to tell people, you look at militaries around the world, they have rules of engagement. They're not going into war without some sort of rules of engagement. What does that look like? And we need to have the same thing as traders. When do we take the trade? When do we set out? And always remember, cash is a position. Just because your computer's up and running, just because you got a live data stream and the markets are open, doesn't mean there's going to be a trade. Cash is a position. And some of the days I was the most proud of were the days I never took a trade. And when you can sit in front of a computer, and this is very difficult to do. If a trader's struggling with discipline, I always tell them, sit in front of the computer for 3 days with live markets, but don't take a trade. There's very few people can do that. You got your finger on that mouse and you're going to go in. And so just practice discipline that way. Discipline is very, very important in this industry.
Yeah, that's really hard. I mean, we have, especially like social media is so popular these days, and then people keep posting winning trades. And then when you see them win, and then, oh, I want to win too. I want to get into the markets. I cannot wait at all. And then they will just keep trying to force it, even if there's no setup at all.
Yeah, and you bring up a valid point. The social media influencers out there, there are credible social media influencers. We have some great influencers at Apex, and the challenge that I would give to users is don't blindly follow those influencers. If you have a favorite influencer, understand their strategy. And so when you see your favorite influencer taking a trade, make sure you understand the reasons for entry. Make sure that fits within your rules of engagement. And then you can take the trade. It's okay to follow your favorite influencer, but don't blindly follow. Understand the risk, understand why they're entering, and share that same sentiment.
You said trading is more about the psychology than the strategy. What specific mental habits you think will distinguish the winners from the losers?
It's all about discipline. I firmly believe that. And the reason why I believe that is there are some fantastic strategies out there. Strategies are proven. Strategies that work. Strategies that in back testing have been proven to work very well. But yet we see traders with those proven strategies fail. And it's because, I go back, that's the governance of the 3-3 rule. So if you have a great strategy in a 3-3 rule, you're probably going to have a high chance of succeeding. So from a discipline perspective, we all struggle with that. I struggle with that today. An example of that is I'll identify higher time frame confluence on a chart, and I see price action move into that zone. And the biggest thing I struggle with even today is I'll front run my entry. I'm scared that price isn't going to get to my zone, and so I'll enter a little bit early. And then when price does move to the area identified, that essentially was my stop loss, and I get stopped out where I should have entered. I struggle with that. Discipline is something that you really have to work with. And as I said earlier, try sitting in front of the charts and not taking a trade. Have an accountability coach. People don't understand the importance of that. Pick up the phone and call somebody, even if they don't understand the financial markets and even if they're not a trader, just pick up the phone and say, just tell me to stop. And in my case, I had a younger brother who was not a trader. And there were many days where I'd just pick up the phone and I'd say, dude, you got to tell me to stop trading. Like, just tell me. And he'd go, like, because it seemed like when you kind of exposed yourself, and I think that's in the world of social media influencers, I think that's sometimes why maybe they're a little bit more successful is because they have tons of accountability coaches watching them. And I think that is important. So it is all about the discipline, because the greatest strategies in the world are not going to work in all markets. They're not going to work in all time frames, and they're certainly not going to work every day the same way. So understand the strategy and then have the discipline to set out. If there's volatile markets, if it's FOMC, if Trump is announcing tariffs on China, those are all things you have to be very careful with. Those are not days to trade.
Yeah, right. And I think accountability is a very important point. These days, people are just not being accountable. Like, they blame it on everybody else. They blame it on the computer. They blame it on network. They blame it on the setup. They blame it on Trump. They blame it on some random tweets from him, and they never question themselves, like whether it is your problem. It's like you are not following your rules. You are not having the discipline. And then trading for me is like a mirror. It is for you to look at yourself, to look at your real self, to discover who you really are and your real problem is. And then only with that, only if you understand yourself completely, your habits, your weakness, your strengths, then you will excel in trading.
Yeah, exactly. And until traders understand that their biggest weakness exists right between their ears, they're going to keep struggling, right? Until you can understand that we have to have a strategy, we have to have the rules of engagement, we have to have the discipline to maybe not take a trade. And to give you an example, I have a 20-year-old son who is trades at Apex, and I see the same characteristics that I struggled with in him. And it's very, very difficult. And so there's been days where I say, listen, don't take a trade unless I tell you to. Meaning, okay, now you can look for your entry. Now's a great time to look at taking a trade. And what was interesting, I told him, I said, just set for a day, don't take any trades. And at the end of that day, he had blown his accounts. Again, it's so difficult to sit in front of the computer and not take a trade.
Did you punish him or some sort?
He was punished by, buying more evals and having to pony up the cash for that. So he'll learn. I think at some point, the sting becomes too great. And then we understand that, hey, we've got to get disciplined. We've got to, figure this out.
Yeah. Is it always have that point that it's like a wake-up call. You reach some point and then you finally realize, oh, I cannot do this anymore. I have to change.
Yes.
And then, once you reach that point, then you will succeed.
Unfortunately, that's sometimes we have to deposit before we can withdraw, right?
Right.
So that's just that's the way the financial markets work.
Yeah, true. And recently I have watched another interview. It's like a podcast. And then there was another prop trader who's a very top prop trader. And then he mentioned that the two types of traders, trader A, he knows a lot about entry models. He has perfect strategy. He has perfect entry, but he is not good at managing the position and the sizing. Trader B, he only trades view models and the entry is not so perfect, but he has very disciplined position sizing and risk management. And then the result is trader A can make a lot of money at some occasion, but he just give them all back to the markets. He couldn't keep the money he made. Whereas trader B, he has a very nice 45 degrees upward equity curve. So that is like a very wake-up call for me, is that we always focus on trying to look for the best entries, best strategies, but we ignore that what's important is how you manage your position. I think that is the point that distinguish the good traders and the bad traders.
Yeah, discipline builds consistency, and consistency will lead to payouts. Yeah. And I think the one thing is we see a lot of traders that want a DCA, and DCA is allowed at Apex now. At one point it wasn't, but you can dollar cost average now if that's part of your strategy. For myself, DCA never has worked, still doesn't work to this day. DCA works in the equity markets, like if you're buying into Tesla and you want to, average down a little bit, you can buy more Tesla shares now, especially after earnings because they dropped the other day. So you could average into Tesla a little bit more. That works. DCA works in equity markets. In the futures market's a little bit tougher. I always encourage people, scale into winners. And micros sometimes, people that trade micros sometimes are kind of laughed at. I actually think micros are a great thing. You can put on as many micros as you want, whatever the account will allow you to do, and you can scale into that. And so there's nothing wrong with trading micros, especially in the higher volatility now. If you look at, for NASDAQ traders, the recent volatility at market open has been almost untradeable in a lot of ways. And so you have to be very, very careful with that. But it's about consistency. If you forget the payout and say, I'm just going to be consistent, the payout will happen.
Yeah. Just like one very formidable trader, old trader, he taught me like recently, he used a metaphor, just like running a business. Like you won't average down when your business is going bad. You will only open new branches of shops when your business is thriving. Just like trading, like if you're countering the trend, you shouldn't just adding more positions to it. You should only like scale up when you're riding the trend and you're following the trend. So just like running business is the same logic.
Exactly. And that's a good analogy because all too often when you dollar cost average into a losing position, you end up losing twice as much. That's really the ultimate result. And if you're in that situation and you're tempted to DCA, just ask yourself, why wasn't your initial entry right? Did you follow your rules? Did you break a rule? And it's much, much easier to be analyzing your position when you're not in the market and you're just looking at a chart than when you're in there. Because when you're in there, emotions take control, and guess what? The finger's on the mouse, and you'll just keep pulling the stop down and DCAing. And it doesn't take very long, especially in fast-moving markets, and especially if you're trading mini contracts, to blow up an account. It's all about consistency.
Yeah. Let's talk about social media. Nowadays, there are a lot of new traders. They are distracted by the overnight success stories, the Lambo life, the private jets and stuff. So we actually have a Hong Kong saying. It's a slang called FF. So FF means final fantasy. It means unrealistic expectations. So what advice would you give to new traders to not to be distracted by those FFs?
I think the advice to give is going to be might be a little bit harsh. I think the best advice is just to assume none of it's true. None of the Lambos are true. None of the private jets are true. None of it's true. And I always like to tell people it's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. And all too often, what we see on social media is we see the Instagram posts about how much they made. So they've captured the post at the peak of the day when they were way up. But that's not always what happened when the cameras went off and the lights were turned down. What happened then? How much did they give back? And we all know it's easy to rent a jet for some private photos. So just assume it's all fake and just focus on consistency. And we have an 8-day payout structure at Apex. That allows you to take a payout every 8 days. Don't even put that pressure on yourself. Focus on a longer payout. I like to tell people, if you can trade 20 accounts, and if you want to make $1 million, if you do $416 per day in those 20 accounts, that's $8,333. If you do that 120 days, that's $1 million. Your path to $1 million is much easier than you think if you have the discipline. $416 in a market like NQ is not easy, but it certainly is doable. And if you start to look at 120 day, to do $1 million instead of 10 days or 20 days to get that Lambo, your chances go up exponentially.
Right, and we are of the view that one is to treat trading pot firm as running a business. Your payout is your revenue, and then the cost of buying the evals is your expenses. And then your net profit is always revenue minus the expenses. And a lot of influencers, they only show you how much payout they've made, how much money they've got online, but not many of them will actually tell you how much money they spend in buying those evals and how many accounts they've blown before getting those payouts. And we always educate our group members to keep track of the expenses versus the revenue. And I think that's a very important point in talking about running your pot firm, your accounts, like running a business. In that way, you would do it seriously, but not trying to gamify trading or trying to gamble away your money.
Exactly. And so let's just go on. I'll just go on the record and tell you this. I had $1,082,000 payout. It cost me $350,000 to get that.
Yeah.
That was my cost of entry. That was what I deposited to take that withdrawal. Now that $350,000 wasn't all in prop firms. That was in my own brokerage accounts that I thought I could put 10,000 in and make it work. And then, have to add another 10,000 and another 10,000. And then in 2020, 21, that's when futures prop firms really kind of started to be a thing. And that's when I entered the futures prop firm space. And so my total deposit into the financial markets to make $1,082,000 was $350,000. Now, that was a hell of an investment, right?
Yeah.
I would do that again. But at the same time, you also have to understand what are your financial means, where are you at in life? Can you afford that type of risk? Because that's always the thing that I would caution people with. But yeah, that's the side that you don't see, as you said, with the social media. And I think that's the cautionary, the wisdom that we would give new traders is to just assume that maybe it's not as true as what it appears to be.
Yeah, and it's always about you shouldn't lose the money that you don't have. You only
Correct.
risk you can take. You can only risk the money that you could risk. And trading is about risk and reward ratio. And then how to live your life, how to be in a business is also about risk reward ratio.
And that's the advantage with Apex, is rather than going out there and risking your mortgage payment or your 401k, your kids' college funds, you can go out there and enter the capital markets for $30. So the barriers of entry have been greatly reduced.
Right. Let's talk about Hong Kong and Asia. So before you come to Hong Kong, I know you visited a lot of Asia cities and met with the local traders. What's your impression of them, and what do you think is the difference between them and the American traders?
There's a certain element of discipline that I've seen across Asia with a lot of traders. It appears to me that most of the traders in Asia, when asked about a strategy, can articulate their strategy quite well. I feel like maybe there's other parts of the world where maybe that doesn't exist quite as much. It just appears that there's a little more thought put in to the trading strategies over here, to the way that they read the charts. There's communities being built. They're leaning into those communities a little bit more, and I like to see that. But overall, it's been interesting from the perspective that we all fight the same thing. At the end of the day, the discipline struggles we have, are the same all around the world. There's no different between parts of Asia, parts of Europe, South America, North America. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. We all struggle with the same things. But I've been impressed with how well traders across Asia can articulate their strategy and explain it. I always say, if you have a strategy but you can't teach it, you don't know it. If you need to be able to teach your strategy, and all the traders I've talked to have been able to do that quite well.
Right. Probably because we are trained by our education system. Like, we are very diligent in, studying, taking exams and testing everything theories. And we have undergone maybe thousands of bad texts before we explain the strategy to someone. So that's why we can articulate our strategy and trying to know about what people's going to ask, and then what is the witness of it, what's the strength of it, and then analyze it to the others.
And a word of caution is, somebody else's strategy may or may not work for you. We all see the financial markets different. I'm a big fan of Jim Dalton and Market Profile. I love Market Profile. I couldn't trade without Market Profile. I love market internals. There's traders that don't study market internals, don't know anything about Jim Dalton and Market Profile. That's fine. So we all see things differently. I was a fan of Fibonacci. I love Fibonacci. It exists in nature. It's just fascinating to me how it's everywhere we look. And those are all things I just become deeply fascinated in. And that would be the challenge I would give any trader, is to develop a strategy and then learn all about it, read all about it, find other traders that share that strategy, and backtest it. That's the advantage we have with the markets now, is there's a lot of backtesting that we can do to ensure those strategies work.
Yeah, we are also a big fan of Fibonacci's, because we believe that the markets, somehow there's certain algos, or more than one algos in controlling it, the price action and stuff of the institutions. They have algos, they have algo trades, they place a lot of trades. Some of the algos are based on Fibonacci's. So that's why we always see when price reaches the Fibonacci, the golden pocket, it will react.
Yes.
And then we also observed that, that's the advantage of having a community. You have different traders, they trade different instruments, and then we'll share our observations. Say, this trader is good at trading gold, and then he observed that, gold will react to certain Fibonacci ratios. And then I trade maybe the Hong Kong index. I observed that the Hang Seng index will react to different Fibonacci ratios. And then we often have exchanges like that and try to refine our strategies. And that's how we love our community, is everyone is progressing, we have a synergy. It's not just, you're not doing this alone. You have someone to talk to, and then we try to help each other out.
And back to Fibonacci, the interesting thing is, with the markets pushing all-time highs now, Fibonacci extensions are one of the only tools we have to kind of figure out where it could go, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's great to hear that you have communities that kind of lean into those strategies together, because Fibonacci is one in particular that is probably widely misunderstood. And I think traders would do themselves well to, I always say, learn a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
It's all interesting. You never know when there's going to be some element of a strategy that interests you, whatever that is.
Yeah, just never stop exploring, because you don't know which one is suitable for you before you try out.
Yep. And at the same time, as you explore all those strategies, and as we tend to do as traders, we like to put a lot of indicators on our charts. Take the strategies, the indicators off your charts you're not using. I'm a big fan of that. That's the one thing you asked me earlier, what I've changed. That's probably been my biggest change, is I've removed anything I don't use off my charts. If I'm not looking at it on a daily basis, it's not on my charts anymore. I've really cleaned my charts up, made it simpler, got rid of the noise, and I think that's important as well.
Does Apex have any plans to expand localized support or even event for Asia-based traders?
So from a support perspective, we do have support agents around the world. So we're trying to cover support 24/7. I think we're actually doing that now for the most part. It's probably not quite as heavy during the Asia and London session, but certainly during the New York session. As far as localized events, we've done 2 different tours across Asia in the last year and a half. And our focus has really turned to our affiliates. While we're certainly, focused on users, you are the voice that can continue reaching out to communities across Asia. So our focus is to help affiliates grow, help your communities grow, support you in any way, and that'll ultimately help your users and the user totals grow across Asia. So we'll do more affiliate meetups and things of that nature, but you're going to see a lot of focus on affiliate support over the next year.
That's great because we are very impressed by Apex. Like you guys flying all the way from the States to Hong Kong. That's like 20-hour flight to meet us and then to talk to us as affiliates and also many other Hong Kong traders. And we are very thankful for that. And then you guys have been provided a lot of support to us and help our community to grow. And actually our community is to educate people about PROPFIRM. And we think that PROPFIRM is a game changer. We want more people to know about it because before that, people would think, oh, PROPFIRM is very mysterious. Like, how does that guy make money? He just push buttons in his room all day. And then they don't know the rules. They don't know how it works. We want to make it accessible to people. And then for youngsters, for students, for people who are interested in trading, but they don't have enough capital. And PROPFIRM provided a very good leverage to them. And then if one day someone who make a fortune from PROPFIRM or got rich from PROPFIRM, and then he or she would be like, oh, TradeLad taught me about that in the past. And then that would be so satisfying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we collected some opinions from our group members. A lot of them are asking, does Apex have any plans to offer straight to funding account or end of day drawdown plans?
I can answer part of that question. So the direct to funded accounts are coming. Those are being worked on now. And I'm at liberty to say that because Daryl Martin, our CEO, actually disclosed that in a YouTube interview some time ago that you may or may not have seen. So yes, the direct to sim or the direct to funded accounts are coming. The end of day is something that is continually being discussed. It's obviously something that we look at internally, but I don't know the direction on that at this point. But the direct to PA accounts are coming.
Yeah, that's a very very popular option these days, and yeah,
and understandably so. There's some traders that may have got caught just in that disciplined moment who don't want to go down the eval route again and are willing to pay a little more to go back into a funded account, and we certainly want that option for our users.
Right, and okay, so for new traders in Hong Kong who want to join Apex, what's your best advice for them to maximize the chances to be successful?
Focus on consistency, not on payouts. I continue to say that. And I don't want to sound redundant in always saying that, but we hear so many people, they get a PA account. What we'll see is we'll see evals passed. They get a PA account. Our PA account rules state that you can only trade half of the contracts until you meet the trailing drawdown, right? So if you're in a 50K account, which allows 10 contracts, you can only trade 5 until you're past the trailing drawdown. We see brand new PA accounts and they go in full tilt with 5 contracts day one. 5 contracts on NQ in a 50K account is a recipe for disaster. Focus on consistency. And I go back to some of our great traders, some of our best traders have built accounts over a long period of time, $100, $200, $300 a day. Yes, they have great days. They have days where they'll do multiple thousands. We all have those days. But the consistency always pays off in the long term. So if you have a goal, and I think it's okay to have goals. If you have a goal, say if you want to make $1 million, go back to what I said earlier. Put that $1 million goal over 120 days. It's much more attainable than saying, I'm going to take a $50,000 payout in 5 or 8 days. Yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, agree. Let's move to something more personal. What is the toughest challenge for you from personally, from transitioning from a businessman to a trader, and then now taking up the role in promoting Apex to the world?
So my background initially was import-export. So I've traveled in Asia my entire career. Used to work out of China, doing a lot of exports back to the U.S., so I've always been in sales and marketing, and fortunately, this position now is sales and marketing. COVID obviously presented an environment, whereas like we discussed earlier, a lot of traders started to explore the financial markets. That's what I did during COVID. I was actually in quarantine in Taiwan during COVID, so I explored the financial markets and prop firms deeply during that time. So there's been a lot of things that have crossed over. As the director of business development, it's all sales and marketing. We're still out here, presenting a product, trying to get it exposure to new markets, trying to deepen that exposure in new markets, working with our affiliates, showing support to our affiliates. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of businesses that those types of things cross. And so experience that I had in import-export actually has translated quite well into this. From a trading perspective, that taught me a lot of discipline I didn't have. That taught me a lot of discipline that I still struggle with. So there's days, even now, I don't trade nearly as often as I used to, but when I do, there's still days where I just simply have to walk away. Like I'm just in that mindset where you just want to take a trade. You kind of see NQ on a run, 1,100 point drop or something. You go, it's got to be the bottom, and it's not. And I fight the same thing everybody else does. So those are all discipline things that I got to work with.
Right. And I know you still trade right now. How do you balance between trading and your work in Apex?
So my job at Apex is first, because I truly enjoy this. If I wasn't in this position, I wouldn't be able to come to Hong Kong and meet great folks like yourself. So I truly enjoy what I do, and I truly enjoy letting others know about, the reduced barriers to the financial markets. I think it's super important. I think it's something we need to get the news out, especially on futures being centralized. So it's there's very few days that I take a trade anymore. I might take, right now I'm in an NQ long position, and I've held that position for almost 3 months. So I've taken some heat on it because I held that position through the 100% tariff announcement on China. And I'm still in that position, but I tend to swing trade more because I'm busy enough with my job. I like to look at the higher time frames. And that was always kind of my goal, was to kind of get out of that day trading mentality where I was scalping trades all day long, and kind of focus on higher time frames and look for potential swings. And so I'm happy when I enter those types of trades now. Yeah. It's easier to manage, and it certainly works better with my job.
I love swing trading too. And then swing trading is more about you enter position, and then you set price alert at your target at some critical points, and then you don't look at it at all. And then that's how get me through the swings, ups and downs, the wicks. And then there are a lot of different news, different price swings. It will shake you out, but by not looking at it, have helped me to avoid those swings, because I didn't look at it. I don't even notice that. And and there's a common perception, especially in Hong Kong, that people always say, oh, if you are so good at trading, you made a lot of money, why would you still need another job? Why would you still work in another job? What's your take on that?
I think it's what you really enjoy. So there's an element to day trading I don't think people understand, and that is it's a very lonely world. And I think that's where a lot of the social media influencers have become so popular, because they've created communities for people to kind of feel at home in. I'm not one that likes to sit in a corner office and in front of a computer and scalp all day long. And that's kind of what I did when I did my $1 million run. That's not something that I would want to do every day. I love to get out. I love to meet people. I love to go on podcasts like this. I love to engage with other people. I like to show them how to trade. I like to go to those types of events, like to travel. All of those things are a little more complicated if you're forced to sit in front of the charts and day trade. So I think there's a balance of both, and I'm able to still do quite a bit of trading with my swing trade style now, and so both work quite well now. Day trading can be stressful, and especially if you're sitting there trying to scalp 3 or 4 or 5 points on NQ, it can become very, very stressful. And that's not something that, while it worked for a while, and it worked quite well because that was kind of the environment that COVID presented when I did that, it's not something that I would want to do every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I agree on that. It takes a lot of, eye to keep looking at the chart and then to scalp. And then I just cannot do it like all my life with that. And for me, my take is it's all about, if you look at other companies, they're like conglomerates, like Apple, like they make Mac, they make computers. They're so good at making computers. Why would they go to make iPhones? Why would they go to make earphones? It's all about diversification and having multiple sources of income. And we have a very famous businessman called Li Ka-shing. He is a very famous real estate developer. he made a lot of money in building houses, but he has a lot of other business like supermarkets, like public services, like electricity, like the port, like logistics, and also some startups, innovation startups. So it's all about, no one will say no to multiple sources of income. Like it's more, you have more wealth, you accumulate more wealth if you have multiple sources of income. Like let those other business work for you, and then you can still pursue your interest in trading. And trading is a source of income. And you have other interests such as maybe doing YouTube, maybe doing podcasts, and then maybe training, and then those can make you money too.
Yeah, and
So
it's been very enjoyable from the perspective that it's allowed me to meet some of our traders who have had really unbelievable success stories, whether it's the mother who put her kids through college on Apex, whether or not it's the single mom in Philippines who's got generational wealth now, whether or not it's the $2.2 million payout who now has a Ferrari, those types of things. Whatever it is, those are all incredible stories, and it's a lot of fun to kind of take that ride alongside them and just see the change in people's lives.
Yeah, it's very inspiring to see a lot of success stories from people who trade. And then that kept us moving. Like sometimes we face a lot of failures, like strategies doesn't work, and then we're having down days, we're having like big wet month, but looking at those stories, they keep telling me that, oh, it's actually work, like trading actually works, and that keep us moving.
Yes.
Where do you see Apex and the prop trading industry 5 years from now?
I think we're only seeing the start of what we're going to see. I think the prop space is going to become deeply integrated into the financial markets. I think it's going to be something that you're going to see taught or discussed at at universities and colleges all across the world. It's going to be become more attainable to the masses. I don't think it's going away. I think it's going to change. I think AI is going to probably impact it, good or bad. There's going to be some things happen there. Obviously, regulators are going to have a look at that. I think there's blockchain technology, obviously, that could come in and start to influence this space. NQ, I recently listened to a presentation that the CEO of NQ she was at, and she talked about how they're moving NQ to the blockchain. There's a lot of changes happening in financial markets, and I think the futures prop firms are going to be right in the middle of that, front and center.
We know TopStep, they banned Hong Kong before, but right now they unbanned Hong Kong. And then do Apex see it as a rival? And we know that what's Apex edge over TopStep?
So we like competition. We welcome competition. And I'm not going to go out there and say anything bad about any of the other firms out there. TopStep, obviously, is one of the initial firms in this space. However, I think Apex modernized it. I think Apex has scaled that potential exponentially. So we're not in the business of banning and unbanning countries. We're in the business of growing across the world. And for whatever reasons, they may have banned Hong Kong and unbanned it. It's not something that we want to do. And I think Apex has always led with a certain transparency and credibility, transparent ownership, and again, follow the rules, you'll be paid.
Yeah, and recently we know that TopStep X, that platform, is not doing a great job. They wipe out some traders' profits, and it's a disaster for traders. Like our hard-earned money, and then they just got wiped out. And compared to TopStep X, we have been using TradeLad, and it's pretty stable environment and platform. So and also wealth charts, but I like TradeLad more. So what's your preference, or what do you think about the platforms?
I think all three have their advantages. So wealth charts is very interesting from the perspective that it's putting a lot of the rules on the charts in front of you, so you can kind of see the drawdown. You can see some of those things real time. I think that's especially for new traders, and especially for traders that maybe don't have the hardware to support a downloadable software. It's easier to do something like wealth charts. It's super easy setup. You buy an account, you log in, it's there, you're ready to go. TradeLad, there's things about TradeLad. TradeLad, you can enter with brackets, so some of those things can be a little bit challenging. I personally used a lot of Rhythmic accounts, but all three, it depends on what platform you're using, what data you need. But I think that's a unique advantage with Apex when you compare us to any of the other projects you're talking about. All of our data, all of our platforms are third party. There's nothing we're managing in-house. And so I think that brings a lot of credibility and a lot of transparency, and certainly a lot of confidence from our users' perspective that we're not managing those platforms and data. You're able to use whatever platform those data providers support.
And will Apex have any plans to expand to other instruments, like other indexes of the world, or other, like maybe cryptocurrency contracts or other instruments?
Well, you can trade micro Bitcoin futures now. So we're always looking at that. And if there's enough need or enough people asking, it's certainly something that we can look at, because that's something we kind of review on an ongoing basis. So if we get enough people in the support tickets asking for a certain instrument or a certain market, whatever that is, we certainly would look at that. Yes.
Yeah. Lastly, do you have any final words for the traders in Hong Kong and our audiences?
Well, first of all, thank you to all the traders in Hong Kong for participating in Apex. We love you guys. We're super happy that we have the relationship we do with the affiliates that are growing in Hong Kong. And all I can say is stay consistent and don't focus on the payouts. The payouts will come, and it's not about how much you made, it's about how much you keep.
This is all for our interview, and thank you, Vince, for sharing a lot of great insights to us. And the most important part, consistency. He's been repeating that time after time, and I guess you all have learned a lesson on that. And if you guys like this kind of content, give us a like, subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comment section below. And also, if you like to connect to like-minded traders like us, join our free Discord community. Make sure you check that out, sign up. And that's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next one.